Hey there, fantasy lovers! Chloe Bug here. Lately, I've been trying to get prepared for ArtFight coming up next month, and figured maybe you would like to know how this works. So I made a poll, and without a doubt, y'all want me to explain about this ArtFight event, so here we are. Now, I will give you a heads up that since ArtFight is currently upgrading and setting up their website to make things fair for everyone, there will be some things I cannot explain, but what I will do is I'll go into the important things you need to know based from my experiences last year. So if something changes up this year, I'll make an update video correcting myself on this. But as far as I know, so far nothing has changed other than updates on their rules and such. Also, I won't be making a speed paint as a background because I think it will be too distracting for this guideline. Lestat will instead provide some examples, with credit of course if it's from a different artist, and if it happens to be one of my characters that I made recently named Troy, he'll give you a heads up before he shows any of the creepy details, but we'll get to that later. Anyways, with all that out of the way, let's get into it. One of the most frequently asked questions I get anytime I mention this event is, what is ArtFight and how does it work? ArtFight is this one-time event taking place throughout all of July where artists gather together to make an art trade, but it's in the form of a game. The premise is simple. Artists are split into two teams, each theme having a different theme every year. Like last year, it was Bloom versus Wither. The goal is to draw characters from the opposing team to earn points, and the team with the most points earned by the time the month ends wins. There isn't a prize or anything in this event, as the spirit of ArtFight is mainly a place for people to draw your characters, grow as an artist, harness your creative skills, and of course support one another throughout social media. This event isn't a non-profit organization though. While it is free to join and to participate, it does require donations, if possible, to keep their site running, pay their moderators and coding, and whatever is left goes to charity programs that they do research on before donating to them. In other words, this is done in the case of a good cause and to keep the site going, where artists could go to get full support since social media algorithms are kind of a pain to deal with at times. Now, if all this interests you in any way, or you wish to donate or to support the team hosting the event, then I'll leave a link to their homepage in the description below. As far as what are the rules for ArtFight goes, that's a lot to unpack that will take up the entire video, so I recommend taking your time to read through them before joining. I will say you won't have to worry about dealing with anyone posting things that they shouldn't be, as there are filters and categories for people who have different art methods. ArtFight welcomes many artists, including beginners, anime, furries, fanfictional, you name it, they probably got them there. I'll go more into the filters later and how that works, but rest assured, the team will make sure everyone has a fair and comfortable experience when it comes to ArtFight. And if there is something that does concern you in any way, you are more than welcome to either message the mods about this or head over to their Discord server where you can get further help as well as updates about the site. Like I said, they are currently upgrading and updating the site, and they do this every year to make sure it's all made in time before July 1st hits, or at least before the team names are revealed. So there is still time to ask them anything before the event if you got further questions about the event itself or what's allowed on this site. So now that you basically got an understanding of how it works, let me give you some tips on setting up your characters and profiles. There's a variety of ways to provide references and examples of your characters, and ArtFight allows you to have at least 100 characters and no higher than that. However, you will get burned out quickly if you're making references that lead to nowhere or just feel grating in a way, especially if you have so many in such a short amount of time. So here's my advice before the event begins on setting up your characters. Number 1, pick your characters that you have made that you want in the event. You don't need to have every character on your profile, because that will burn you out. Limit yourself on them and focus on the ones you enjoy making the most, then include some more next year round if you want to. Keep your older models of characters from the previous year if you plan on joining ArtFight again in the next coming years, so that way you don't have to redo any of them. Like say, oh, I don't like this older model, I want to put in this different model. Save it, just hide them. There is a way you can hide them or archive them until you re-update it, the model sheets, which is what I'm currently doing right now. So don't delete your characters if you suddenly don't like them as such like that. Unless you really don't like them, then delete them. But if you're planning on remodeling them, just hide them and you can upgrade them later. Number 2, make reference sheets that are important to your character, especially the front and or the back. This is not only the basics of people drawing your character, but it is in case they want them to make them in a certain pose, unless you're fine with them making their own take to the character. For instance, Troy here has 4 references: the front, the back, the expressions, and the smaller details. The front and back I already said why, but the expressions are what make the character stand out for him. He expresses either using computer icons and themes as an emote like you would on a phone, or even just a normal expression. It's all up to you. It's up to whoever draws this guy what they intend on drawing him in certain ways. As for the smaller features, it's because parts of him are hard to tell, like the power icon on his shirt since it's partially covered by his hoodie. The rest is like, the metal jagged teeth and his cyber-themed demon tail, which are optional for those who wants to give him a more cyber demon appeal. But let's say the back of the character isn't important to you, or you just want to keep it simple. Then only pick a pose that focuses on the front of the character and include the little features like say what's on their shirt and include the color palette. Please don't shade your characters in references unless it's cell shaded. It's easier for those using the color picker tool without accidentally getting a color that doesn't fit the character, or save them from having to try to guess the color just right. Just keep it simple by making the character in line and fill in the color and nothing more. Number 3, if you are able to or already have some made, provide examples of your more detailed drawings of said character. Let's say you have a character who's a noble hero. Then provide drawings with them fighting in action or standing looking over their kingdom/town. Another example is if you have character under some horror themes. Then with the filters, of course, provided, make detailed works of them being unsettling in nature or chasing their victims down. Something that captures the feel of what, your character's capable of, so the artist will know what they're getting into when they plan to draw your character. But this part is optional. It's not required, but it does help some who are aiming to draw a moment with said character based on their description and appearance. Finally, number 4, when making their description under their bios, only write down what's important about them. I'm not saying writing a full story helps, but highlight in summary and in short what we need to know about them. Things like their interests, their roles, what's allowed and not allowed if they do draw them, etc. What I put down is a couple of sections. What they need to know, their powers, the extra stuff which is not important but I included them just in case. a list of animation memes that best fits them if they plan to animate said character, and the do's and don'ts when it comes to drawing them. Some setup like this helps a ton for both artists and yourself without having to get fried over this. And you can always go back and change the description at any time if you don't like what you're reading. Above everything I have said so far as modeling references and writing the description goes, please slow down and take your time with them. If you can't make every character you want in the event, then simply work with what you have. There's always next year to fix things up and make changes before the next event. Even if you just got one character, that's all you really need is something in case the opposing team or even your own team member, I'll get into that later, wants to draw them. You can't join ArtFight if you don't have a character that you made on you. Otherwise, it's unfair to others and to you. Also, I mentioned about filters, how they give other artists a heads up before proceeding with viewing. There is a filter for just about anything, but if you're unsure if a filter is required, please don't hesitate to ask the moderators, either on their site or on their Discord. So please provide a filter if there's something like, for example, an epilepsy warning with bright colors or flashing images, body horror, blood, gore and violence, sexual and NSFW themes, etc. You will see them once you go to submit your character if it contains mature themes, and if it does, you'll want to click yes on that and click on the filter with that warning that fits your description. My character Troy already has a body horror filter as a warning because the two images provided as my examples contain body horror themes. Now then, let's move on over to the attacks of ArtFight. In ArtFight, you will attack the opposing team by making drawings of their characters in order to earn points. There are 3 types of attacks: a regular attack, revenge, and friendly fire. An attack, which is the regular attack, is when you submit a drawing to the opposing team's character. Simple as that. Revenge is when you're submitting the opposing team's character on the artist who got to you. And a friendly fire is submitting an attack of someone in your own team's character. Based on how you drew the character, regardless of the 3 categories you are submitting for, the points will determine automatically. I noticed that the more detailed the drawing of the opposing team's character, the higher the points. But when I did a friendly fire for one of my friends who happened to be on the same team as I was, I got less points, and I think it was like 15 points, I think. So while you won't be disqualified at all for friendly fires, you just won't get a lot of points. I'm not sure how revenges works in the point system so far, because I haven't revenged anyone yet, but you'll never know. I'm sure it's like either higher or the same, I'm not sure. Now, pay attention to this part because this is crucial. Write it down, put it in your notebook. I don't know how, just remember this. When you submit an attack, you need to remember the name of the character you drew, the name of the artist who made them, and above all else, the number beside the character's name. Because when you submit a character, you'll notice that there's this hashtag and a bunch of numbers beside their name. This is incredibly important because it will be required when you submit the attack. You cannot submit the attack unless you know the number. And the reason why these number things exist is because, let's just say you're not the only person in the world with a character named Cookie or something like that, which is why the numbers are there to determine who is who. Much like your own characters, if the attack contains certain themes like gore and violence, for instance, and so on, then it will need the filter the same way when you uploaded your characters to your own page. So please include that if it does. Finally, the attack submissions will have a list set up similar to those who made commissions before. And if you haven't made a commission before, then here's how this works. There's a variety of ways you can draw characters, whichever you see best fit for them. And there are 3 settings for that, as far as I could remember. The visual of the character, like a sketch, the bust, the half body, full body, etc. What background you use, such as a detailed scenery, abstract, solid colors, etc. And if it's polished or not, which basically means that you put a lot of effort into this drawing. In the rules section of ArtFight, there are question marks icons, and likely within the rules itself, providing examples of those things if you're unsure on how that works, and that includes, examples of when to use a filter. Very handy feature. I recommend looking into them so you'll know what to do with the examples provided. Once you have included the drawing and put down the names of numbers and checked off how you drew the character, then you're ready to submit your attack. The points are automated out of 100, I assume, so that way the more attacks you make in different ways, the more you'll notice the difference in your points and scores. Please be honest when submitting attacks though, because the mods and the other artists will point you out if there is something wrong. And these mods will either have you redo the attack submission properly or disqualify you depending on the situation. I haven't seen this happen, but I would like to assume, for instance, if you submit an attack that's a sketched, and you labeled it as a detailed drawing, then that's a huge no-no. So play fair in this fight and be respectful to the other artists' wishes on their characters. That about covers everything as far as how it works, but I'm sure there are other questions out there about this event. And while I'm unable to speak on behalf of the team or know all of the answers, I will say this from experience of what I do know. If you feel overwhelmed trying to draw many characters, then you don't have to keep going. There is no rule saying you need to make something every day for the entire month of July, and you can manually join to do the best you can. You don't even have to revenge attack someone if they draw your character if you don't want to. It's all optional. There's no limits. If you're joining ArtFight and you're making so many attacks but you're worried that nobody is hardly drawing any of your characters, then that's okay. Focus on your attacks on either the artists that are the most active, or focus on making so many attacks that when next year arrives, you don't know who's targeting you next for revenge. So don't feel down on yourself if nobody got to you. There's always another year. Every artist is here on ArtFight with different goals. Like me, for instance, I want to make over 40 drawings if I can this year, as I made 31 in total last year. And last year, my goal was just aiming to make the highest points, make drawings that gives me the highest points and stuff like that. And now, for my second year running, I just want to make over 40. I could care less about the points now. I even have a method planned on how I'm going to go about my goal as well. Everyone in this event is pretty much wholesome and peaceful after my first experience last year. Even when the team names were announced, not a single person got mad with the team name that they voted for that didn't get picked. They just got more excited, and the spirit fits with the theme for the event, making it more positive than ever. While ArtFight isn't entirely perfect, they are working their best to make sure it's fair and fun for everyone. While it's heavily forbidden to make attacks early, there is no rule stating you cannot save characters you plan on targeting in advance. You are allowed to look around, and if you see a character you may want to attack when the event begins, you can bookmark them. The artist will not know if you are planning to get them, so don't worry if you feel like they may find out. I think that about wraps up all the major things to know about ArtFight, and again, if you got any questions, please ask the moderators on their site or the Discord server. They will cover everything you need to know. The team name reveal will be released on June 23rd at 6 p.m. UTC, so mark that calendar and set that alarm. They will reveal it on their Twitch livestream before releasing the video out on YouTube, which is just a short animation revealing names. So if you haven't made references and such yet, then you best get started on them. And take your time and don't rush it. That's all I got for y'all until Lestat and I reveal what teams will be on this year once it's announced. Link to the ArtFight homepage is in the description, and I'll include both mine and Lestat's profile page there as well if you want to follow us there or perhaps target us. We hope to see y'all there. Good luck out there. Bye for now.